Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to do an updated, setup tour for my 7-year journal. And I was, thinking that this might be the best time to do it because a lot of people are making plans for their 2026 setup. And this is something that I started, I believe, in 2023. And part of the reason why I started this in this particular journal was I wanted to maximize the use of this particular weeks, which honestly, that's how I get most of my ideas. So it's usually centered around things that I really like. So if you don't know, this is the Hobonichi 2022 Inuyasha collab weeks edition. And I have this in the spring version. So this actually starts from, I believe, March or April. But what I wanted to show you was how I set up 7 years worth of journal entries in a very simple way that you possibly can do as well if you're ever interested. So without further ado, let's go right ahead. Just to talk about the cover itself, it is a glossy, well, it's a holographic material from Hobonichi. I do have a clear cover on it just because I wanted to protect this particular one. And, I'm planning to use it for 7 years. Now, Hobonichi does not recommend putting a clear cover on this particular type of holographic weeks editions. But, and that's simply because, the layer might peel off on the clear cover. But this one does not, go outside with me. This just stays in the house. So it does not get subjected to heat, humidity, or any of that kind of situation. So I have put a clear cover on it. I haven't had any problems with it, but that is something to think about when you're purchasing something of a similar material from Hobonichi. So on the front cover, we have Inuyasha Kagome Miruko. Was that his name? I think so. Sango and I believe Shippo. And right on the back, we have Inuyasha and of course the Shomaru. And I use this. Let's get into the setup. I also have a little card from Shigi Yugi, if you are aware of that manga or anime. It has a very dear place in my heart, so I just keep it there. And I will get into the setup in a bit and show you how I use or not use some of the pages. So right here we just have a small sticker that I just say 2023 to 2029. This is this is a spring edition, so there was a information here that said spring, but I've just covered it up with a sticker. I don't use this page, and I don't think I plan to use it, but I do use the year at a glance. I use the monthlies, the weeklies, and the back pages. Now, in order to show you how I use some of these, I am going to start with the weekly and then come back to the monthlies and the other pages. So what I have so this is the weekly page of Hobonichi. And if you notice very closely, you are able to see small dots over right here. So I've kind of broken out this section into 6 slots here. So what you will see, let's get to January for a second. What I did was when I was setting this up, I just drew some lines, some vertical lines to categorize 6 columns. And the extra space that I have right here, I just left it blank to start with. But how I set it up is every column represents a day in a year. So we have January 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on. And then it goes all the way to, after January, it starts February. And this way I have every row representing a year. So this first row represents 2023. The second year represents 2024, 2025, 26, 27, 28, and 29. And I just ignore the dates on this side, on the very left side, and also, the dates on the very top corner right here. And having this way, like I did not probably set up the years initially, but, having it just kind of makes me aware that, this is the entry for the first year and so on and so forth. So the coloring it doesn't mean anything, but I have used that particular color throughout the entries for that year. So that's how the weekly is set up. Now, I think, so let's see where I ran out of the weekly pages. So in the month of December is my last weekly available. So I ran out on December 7th. I kind of clipped that, the notes page together and then started writing on the additional back pages that are here. So it's probably 4 or 5 pages more that you're going to have to just put an entry for. And that's how this weekly is set up. And one of the things that I really like about this is that it gives me enough space to write down just the very minimal information that I want. And it's not a huge task for me. It's a very simple thing. And the only thing that I write in here is basically something related to that day, whether it was a good day, a bad day, whatever anything that, is of memory. And I also write where I was that day. So, what is the state, what's the country, whatever. If I was traveling, I will say that I was, traveling that particular day. This way I know that, there is that something happened. And it's actually pretty nice to look back on, I'm in the 3rd year right now. It's actually very nice to look back and see, what I did that particular day. And I don't really like the thickness of the 5-year that Hobonichi has, or any of those perpetual planners. Even Midori has one. It's quite large. And while I don't take this out, it feels a lot more easier for me to manage something of this size. So that's what I really like about the weekly. I have noticed, and this is something that it's so weird, this has happened to me twice. There has been certain days where I've done the very same thing years apart, or 2 years apart, or 1 year apart. So on May 4th, 2023, I first watched Suzume no Tojimari, and the next year, on 2024, I watched it again without knowing that I watched it. And it was so weird because how I write these entries is I usually have my Hobonichi weeks, and all of my entries for, this particular journal comes from the stuff that I document in here. And it doesn't necessarily have to be anything. It's just stuff that I put in from here. So there is enough information in here for me to transfer into this particular, because this thing is like an extension of my body. This comes with me everywhere I go. And I keep up with, my regular Hobonichi Weeks planner daily. So it is good reference material for this. So it's astounding that, I did the very same thing the very next year on the very same day. So this has happened to me twice. And the next time that this was happened is, I think, August of 16th in 2023. My husband and I, we went to, it was just a staycation. We went to Uniqlo as well on that particular day in the particular spot that we went to. It was in Orlando. And on 2025, the very same day, August 16th, we went to Orlando again went to Uniqlo. And it was so surreal. So it's nice to see situations like that happen without you knowing that, these are some of the things that you did the very same day a couple of years ago. So I like keeping this up. I find that it is very easy to keep up with. So I'm filming on October 19th. And I have yet to add my entries for, the week prior. So from October 13th to October 19th. And it is very easy for me to add because, it's all of my entries are in here. It's easy for me to just flip this and find what happened on that particular day. So yeah, so that's what the weeklies are like. And what else? Do I have anything to talk about the weeklies? No. So I don't have anything to talk about the weeklies. Now, I have some of these, circle stickers, dot stickers that you see spread across. So what I generally do, and we're going to go into the back pages in a second, is if there are things that I really want to talk about a little bit more about, stuff that has happened, I just make a note of it. I just put a sticker and then I kind of journal about it in the back pages. So that's what all of the back pages are for. Again, these are kind of color coded. I have every entry that I have spoken about in the color that corresponds to, the pink, orange, or the blue. So if it's pink, it's an entry from 2023, orange corresponds to 2024, and blue corresponds to 2025. I don't necessarily keep up with a whole lot of this, but I like, if there's something that I really like, I will talk about it. Or if it was a difficult day and I do want to journal, long form journaling about it, I will also talk about that. So it's not necessarily something that I do on like the day of. It could be like several weeks later or several months later. And I like having that kind of memory. I don't necessarily have a lot of entries in the back pages. So like you can see, I'm at 28. I'm like at the 28th note page. I still have a significant number of pages left. And I do think that I can keep this up until, the 7-year mark. So that's what I have in the back pages. So let's go back to the year at a glance. Now, the year at a glance, again, I'm trying to make this as easy as I can for myself, which is what, the 7 year is supposed to be. So that's why I started with the weeklies. Now, what I typically do is I've kind of covered the top section here with dot stickers again to indicate what year I'm talking about. So it's like 1, 2, 3 is like January, February, so on. So every column represents a month. And surprisingly, there are 7 slots right here. So every row represents a year. Now, this is why I think that this works very well as a 7 year, because Hobonichi also gives you like 7 slots in here. So every cell or every section, every cell that corresponds here, so 23 and 1, basically I just write what was the most significant thing that happened that particular month. And I don't do this, I do this like maybe months later. So I don't have my October entry here. So I go through all of my entries of January 2023, and then depending on what I've written, I choose the one that was most significant in some way. So like I did go for a trip to India and Dubai during the month of February and March of 2023. So that's what I've just written here. So many things like that. So I just go through stuff that's written and just write down what that particular day was, like what that month signified for me, like what was the most significant thing that happened that month. And it's easy for me to do this because I have my entries ready. I can just quickly flip over, read them, and figure out which one was the most significant one, and then take it from there. What I do plan to use this section for is after my 7-year entries are completely done. So at the end of 2029, I will just find, my most favorite out of all of the January ones and just talk about it. Maybe it would just be like an entry saying, maybe 2027 of January 1st was my favorite January 1st of the 7 years. I haven't thought about it, but that could be one particular way I use this. So that's how I use the year at a glance. Now, this particular one, again, the monthlies, I do not fill out immediately. So, I haven't even moved from the 9th to the 10th, but let me tell you how I use it. So I kind of track my mood across the 7 years in here. And this is very easy for me to do, again, because the dailies are already filled out. And I don't get to the monthlies until maybe several months after it has happened. So let's say I have, this is June. This is the entry for June. Again, Hobonichi has 7 cells from here to here. So it's very easy for me to just say 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29. And I use, the Zig Clean Clear Dot stickers, not stickers, the marker, to basically make a dot depending on how my mood was. So green is great, yellow not so much, red is bad. And I also track in this section any medical things that I need to be, thinking about. So if I had a migraine attack, I will write that. If I was traveling, I will also write that. If I had sleep paralysis, I would write that. So it's just a dot and just adding that information. Again, like this is easy for me to do because I have all of that information in my weeklies. And, this particular week's is very much compatible with this clear dot, water-based pigment. I know the 2025 one, not so much. So like this is, again, the paper is not very compatible for the 2025 one. It kind of bleeds over. So it's kind of nice that it's doing okay on this paper. This is an old one. This is the old Sansen paper. So that's what I use the monthlies for. And again, this is very easy for me to do. I don't get to it several months later. So I haven't even filled out my September mood yet. But it's, again, very easy for me to do that. I just use like these 3 and it's perfectly fine. What else? I think that's pretty much it. Like that's how I manage my 7 year. It's very easy for me. I also find it a nice way to just sit down and write for it just takes hardly, not even 10 minutes for me to fill this out. If I have quite a significant amount of one that I need to go through. Like this one, this one is when I went to watch the Haikyuu movie, in 2024. And I did have like a small Bokuto plushie that I attached to my bag. So I just printed the tickets out and it was fun. So I like looking at all of these. Sometimes the entries are not that great. Like I do talk about upsetting things as well, but I'm trying to not just write about the bad things, but also write about the good things as well. So and I also have this Inuyasha pencil board for the week's edition. I just keep it in here. It's a nice entry that I have. I exclusively use this particular Uniball 1P. I think that's what this is. Yeah. This one is in 0.5. I really like this. I probably wouldn't use this if I were doing like really long form journaling because the size kind of makes it a little hard for me to write occasionally. But yes, that is what I have. I don't have anything else. I don't think I've used my 100 pages, but I'm sure you can, write about anything in here. And so I like having that flexibility of me trying to adapt this particular notebook to things that I want to do later on in the 7 years. And I really like the way that, it just gives you like a very quick overview of how your years have been. But yes, if you do like this setup, feel free to use it. It's I find it really nice to have all of this consolidated in a tiny wallet-sized notebook. And frankly speaking, you know, I probably wouldn't have kept up with this if the cover wasn't really enjoyable. I really love Inuyasha and also all of the collaboration stuff that Hobonichi did with Inuyasha. So please let me know if you like this idea, if you will use it, if you use, you know, if you have hacked your planners to work for you in a similar way. I love reading about all of that. So thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.